Welcome to the Movie Vault. I'm Ben.
And I'm Zach.
And today we dive into the 7 Deadly Sins arc with possibly the root of all sins. I don't know if you agree with that.
With the Bible?
That is kind of what the Bible says, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pride. Because you can really tie like a lot of every issue to pride, because all sin is rooted in, love of self, which is what pride is. But to showcase pride, you could really go a lot of different directions with this. I mean, Hollywood itself is kind of like an establishment that really thrives on profiting off of people's pride. Movie stars, movie directors, names get big in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Studios get big. There's industries that profit off of, gossip and things that are helped by celebrity. But everyone's also trying to make money, which is kind of so they can have a lot of money and spend it all and show everyone else how much money they have, which is also sort of a prideful thing. So it all kind of just like ties together in this, perfect circle. And that's where we enter into the life of Al Pacino and the movie Scarface. So this movie is very famous. I'm wearing a Scarface shirt right now. This might be the first time I'm wearing a shirt of the movie that we're reviewing.
Do you have a Donnie Darko shirt?
I don't have a Donnie Darko shirt. This might be the only movie shirt I have.
That can't be true.
I can't think of another shirt I have that's like referencing a movie. I have a couple music shirts. I have a stand-up comedy special shirt that I like because it has Toyota RAV4s on the back. Conor O'Malley's brilliant stand-up performance from last year. Oh, what was it called? I can't even remember. Oh, it was called Stand Up Solutions, LLC. It was like he was playing a character where he was selling something, but he's a comedian. But it was like an act. It was a hilarious comedy special. I love Conor O'Malley. Really brilliant comedian. But I got this at Old Navy.
Nice.
Before I think I even knew that we were going to do this one first. But Scarface just comes to mind as like a movie about pride, because it's really about a rise and fall, right? It's a rags to riches to destruction story.
Yes.
Which is like a classic arc in movies. But this is just set in the landscape of Miami, Florida.
Is this Cuban There Will Be Blood?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. Maybe he gets a little bit more. No, I mean, you're right. It could be Cuban There Will Be Blood. Because you're right. It is kind of similar in that sense, where it's rags to riches, and then the riches kind of drives you crazy, even if it's like in a different way than in There Will Be Blood. But you're right. It's a very similar plot structure. Good job. You're very smart, Zach.
I am very smart.
Observation.
I am prideful.
But it's about Tony Montana. It was based on a 1932 film of the same name.
Which I would be very interested in watching.
Yeah, I would also be interested in watching that movie. And it's somewhat based on an actual person, but very loosely.
Okay.
So because I don't think the person's name was Tony Montana.
No, it's just Al Capone, isn't it?
Is it about Al Capone?
Yeah.
Okay, it's about because it was the original Scarface in 1932 about Al Capone.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe I've seen stories about the quote unquote real life Scarface, but who knows whether that was like they call him that because he had similarities.
This is what I'll say. Tiger King season 1. Al Capone has a plot. He's involved in that because he owned a lot of tigers, and they said, "Oh, this is the guy who Scarface was based off of."
You're right.
And that's in Tiger King.
That's probably where I got that from.
Interesting.
So whether or not that he actually was the guy that Scarface was based off of is probably.
Did you know that Al Capone single-handedly brought, I believe it's hippos, back into a certain area of the world? Like, he loved exotic animals and would migrate them from certain countries and bring them into his compound. And then that introduced hippos into the U.S. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
He's the sole reason that this species now exists on mainland USA. So, Yeah. Anyway, Scarface. I can get lost in the weeds.
This movie was originally brought to the table by Pacino, actually, which I thought was interesting.
Really? So he wanted to remake
He
this.
wanted to make this movie, and then Sidney Lumet was supposed to take the project on and didn't end up doing it. So Brian De Palma came onto the project, and he was recently coming off of Carrie, which is his breakout horror movie.
Yeah.
And he hired Oliver Stone to do this movie, and of course we know Oliver Stone from Platoon.
Yeah.
And from Wall Street and his run in the 80s to 90s. But at this point, I think he was working more as a writer than as a director. And this movie was very controversial when it was made because of how explicit it is in its presentation of sin.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
Because there's heavy drug use in this. I mean, it's kind of a slice of life in the sense that everyone talks about cocaine being like hitting the streets in the 80s and being like a big part of society. This was made in 1983, around the same time that cocaine was being introduced to the United States. So in that sense, it was actually hitting on a relevant topic. So I think that's maybe why there's more discomfort with the drug use from the general public, because it was something that people didn't know about. People always talk about like cocaine was being used from the sense that it was being pushed on the streets, like in LA and in different places, but it was also being used by like high profile individuals. So it was kind of like a broad sweeping issue.
Yeah. It's for the whole family.
And I'm so glad
like a
that
Pixar
DARE
movie.
was introduced and that stopped everyone from using drugs.
Yeah.
That worked. So
yeah. The war on drugs really did.
It really fixed everything. So we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's why we're okay with showing, really explicit drug use in like every movie and TV show that we have nowadays. So it's not a problem anymore, but it was a problem back then.
Hey, listen, people don't smoke cigarettes as much anymore.
That's good. I mean, what is the next substance that we need to have a really hard line on, like we did with cigarettes? Because that worked.
Is it vaping?
Yeah, but they're already doing that with vaping.
I'm just wondering, like, they're already cutting back from that? Are you sure?
To me, no, maybe I'm biased, but if somebody's like, oh, I got to hit my vape, I'm like,
well, I mean, like,
already, like,
what about the kids? The kids are all over
like,
that.
Then I have to remember that I never vaped in the first place. So I probably
pride.
Yeah. Look, gold star for not vaping for me. But that doesn't hit me at being in a good target
marijuana
audience. Yeah, but marijuana is becoming like socially acceptable now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what cigarettes
It's
are.
like reverse cigarettes. It's like,
no, but I'm saying in the future maybe it cuts back again. They find all these
'Cause
studies.
I'm just saying marijuana was already very stigmatized, but now it's like becoming.
But I'm saying like smoking cigarettes it started off as a taboo, and then it became very popular, obviously, and then it reverted back. You think marijuana will have the same course?
Yeah, maybe they'll flip. Like, could we go back to like you have to go to a restaurant and just like swat out the smoke because everyone in the restaurant's smoking, and like all the movies that happens in, like from the early 70s, are like really cool. You're like, why don't we smoke in restaurants anymore?
I've never asked.
You get
that.
like a nostalgic like.
I've said I will only smoke a cigarette if I'm on the couch with David Lynch and drinking coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never smoked a cigarette either. So
good
just
for
cigars.
2 gold stars.
Which Scarface does do a lot of cigar smoking in this movie.
So, Al Pacino. Have we done an Al Pacino film before?
It feels like we would have had to, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. So
neither can I. Is this his greatest performance ever? I just have to start with that.
I'm gonna say, in my personal opinion, it's not.
Okay.
So, but.
Obviously, we've done The Godfather.
But maybe
we've done The Godfather.
We have done The Godfather.
Part 1 and Part 2.
He's so, like, I was reading somebody comment this. In his early movies, you don't look at him like, oh, it's Al Pacino. He's just like, that's Michael Corleone.
Okay.
Which is maybe why his performance is so good.
I think the same thing in this, too.
Yeah, he is Tony Montana. Because, I think it's a great performance as well. But my favorite Al Pacino performance is Dog Day Afternoon.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's so good. It's so perfect for Al Pacino. He gets to like do his whole. He's so over the top. He's pretty good in Serpico too. That's another early Al Pacino movie.
So John Cazale is in that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like him in Dog Day Afternoon. I think that's my favorite performance. Doesn't necessarily mean it's his best. Like I think Michael Corleone is maybe his best performance. Like the end of The Godfather Part 2 where he's like watching his brother, or is it his brother get killed on the boat, and he's like staring out the window, like
Yeah.
so
Is it
iconic.
Frito or what's his name?
Yeah, Frito Corleone. Yeah. So I think maybe that's his best, and this could be up there. But my favorite is Dog Day Afternoon.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this is his best and my favorite. Scarface. This is incredible. I was so astounded when I first started watching this.
Take it to the limit.
Yeah, sure. He's also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Oh yeah,
just for a little bit.
but he's just it's kind of like a cameo.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that is because, one, I think this is the best performance I've seen from him. And I haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon, and I'm still on my route to watching Heat. But
He's good in Heat. Yeah.
yeah.
But Heat's like kind of cool because it's like De Niro and Pacino's first time on screen together.
Yeah.
Because they weren't on screen together in Godfather Part 2.
And the significance I have with Heat is it started the big picture. Or no, it started the rewatchables. So that's why I am wanting to see Heat. Anyway, so I think I bring it up because his performance really is the central part of this entire film. Really, like, this movie is about Al Pacino, like the character that he portrays in this film. And all the side characters are kind of just like ways that he plays off of them and shows more about his character, if that makes sense. Like, he creates such a depth into this character that is just unseen in most actors in television and most actors in film. And it's incredible. And I think that's probably why he was the one who kind of initiated the film to be made, because he saw that there's this type of character who's kind of gritty on the outside and like sort of psychopathic, and he knows from The Godfather that he can play into that well, because this came out 11 years after The Godfather, and he plays Corleone, who is able to get a job done with a straight face while showing like an inner depth of sadness and inner depth of emotions, particularly relating to like his family, his immediate family, like his wife or maybe his son or something like that. And then carry that into Scarface, where, he is having issues with his wife. He's having issues with his quote unquote brother friend. And I think it's Manolo, right? And yeah, it's just, no, what they call him Manny in the film, I guess. But you can kind of see that this film, the essence of it, whether or not it's based on a true story, whether or not it's based on the 1932 film, whether or not it's based on the book, it's really based on Al Pacino's ability to portray a character he's kind of already portrayed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't watched the other film. I haven't read the book. I don't know much about Al Capone, but this to me doesn't feel out of the box for Al Pacino at all. This is Michael Corleone, just more volatile, less in control.
So over the top.
Yeah.
Like a much more, you're right, like uncontrolled performance.
Yeah. Which I think is better.
And it's more of a, like, it's a different type of rise to power, right? Michael Corleone's rise to power was more of a, like, the family was already established. It was just his path to taking over. Yes. Whereas this movie, and him being like, he wasn't supposed to be the one, he was set aside to be like the perfect Corleone to represent them as a senator, and then he comes back and still takes over the family. Whereas this is somebody completely should have no business getting into the mob industry, has no ties. Yeah. But it also takes you back to how, like, all these people from the Italian mafia got started. Like, there was once a hungry person at the beginning of their family who was poor and wanted a better life for their family, and that was, that's usually the motive they ascribe. That's like the most prominent. Sure, there might have been, they put this more sinister, selfish ones beneath the, I want to provide for my family, I want to give more than there's an opportunity to give otherwise. Yeah. And sure, that's kind of Tony's motive, but from the moment he steps off the boat at the beginning of the movie, we know this guy is a firecracker, and he's exudes confidence. I don't even think he's like a fake it till you make it. I think he's just like, he's already so confident that there's nobody that can tell him otherwise.
Yeah.
That he's going to be successful.
Immediately from that first scene where he's being interrogated in that room, and the cops are asking him about his work and his job and if he was in prison and stuff, he just has all this innate confidence almost. It's not even a built or fake, like you said. It's this ability to kind of face any situation without letting his emotions get in the way. You'll see later on in the film that his emotions do get in the way of what happened, what he needs to do. But at first, he's able to control it. He's able to use it to his advantage. He's able to use it.
Extremely charismatic.
Very much so.
Yeah, and he begins networking from the second he is able, like in the Cuban refugee camps.
Mm-hmm.
He's networking. He knows the people who are in power. He knows how to get favoritism with them.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, and then he immediately is hired to murder someone. So
Yep.
we know that he's like someone who's willing to do whatever it takes.
Yes.
To establish those connections. And I mean, in a sense, he was also kind of doing a political act, I guess, in the beginning, you could say, because they're getting back at someone who there's a lot of instability with Castro taking over. Yeah. And all of that. So, but his main motivation was to gain a good connection and make some money. Yeah,
and it's almost in a Breaking Bad-esque way that it started out as a way to make money and get by, and then became an obsession that he just wants to continue to grow and be more powerful. Right? Same way that Walter White could have stopped the growth of his empire at Albuquerque, but instead he went national, international. And everything falls apart.
And it kind of begs the question, like, once you start the ball rolling, can you actually stop?
Well, that's a nature thing. But before we get into that, I do want to bring that up. Like, is this even a possible business endeavor? I want to get into that in a minute. But I wanted to ask the question of, do you think the strongest part of his performance is his ability to portray a character with absolutely no fear in his eyes, almost like this like wolf-like instinct, to where when he's looking at Frank, who is the mob boss, and he's looking him right in the eyes and telling him the truth, telling him exactly what his intentions are, even when he's doing that with the other guy, that's Frank Lopez, the other mob boss, Alejandro Sosa, and Alejandro Sosa believes him. Like, you look in his eyes, there's no fear. There's this animalistic instinct to pursue, and be loyal to some degree. Do you think his ability, because it's the same thing with Michael Corleone, that he is able to express truth through all these superficialities, through all of these formalities and dramatic entrances and bodyguards? Like, normally business deals would be very shady in mob boss, arenas, and you think of the corporate world too, like everybody's just shaking hands and making deals. Nobody's.
There's sort of this like, I'm hiding my true intentions and what I really think behind this guise of like politeness and formality. But that's something that he's like a knife. He cuts right through it.
Exactly, and that makes him even more scary than those whose intentions are hidden. Right? You think of the formalized mob boss, who is never going to say what his intentions are. He doesn't even have to show his face. Just send your bodyguards to collect the money. Right? It reminds me of Pulp Fiction. But really, it's like the fact that he is able to be there, and Al Pacino is able to portray this character too, of this character who's able to be there, look at them straight in the eyes, and they believe him. That's a character that he is really good at portraying. And I don't want to say that Al Pacino is a one-lane actor. I think this is what actors get wrong. And I'm not an actor, so I could be out of my lane here. But I think sometimes actors try to step out of their comfort zone to show their range, to show that they can be good actors, right? When really they're really good at a particular role and then they suck at another role. I think someone who proved this wrong might be Adam Sandler. He proved like he's really good at comedy. He's really good at hardcore acting. So there are exceptions to this.
But nonetheless, even in those roles where he stepped out, it was with somebody who knew how to use his comedic talents and just put them in a different light.
Exactly. No, that's exactly my point. Al Pacino is playing the same character, but his range is beyond what any other actor's ranges can be. You don't have to be a completely different character to show your range in acting. I think there is a lane that each person is kind of made to be in.
Right.
And if you stick to that lane and show your range within that lane like Al Pacino does, he really plays. I've only seen maybe 4 or 5 of his films, but he plays the same character in all of them, just to different degrees, different levels, different emotions, different quirks, I guess. And for me, that is way more impressive. The subtle differences are than, someone going from an action movie to a drama. And I think that's where actors go wrong, is they try to prove themselves, and it's kind of sad. It looks sad. That's my point. Do you have anything else to say on that? That's just kind of my side point.
That wraps it up pretty good. Yeah, we shouldn't expect actors to be like these complete chameleons all the time. Like you the whole job is you get hired because you kind of look like a part you're playing to begin with. So it's already kind of like a superficial profession.
Yes.
And you can kind of fake it. Like honestly, he did fake it because he's not Cuban. He's like New York, and he's playing a Cuban. So I'm sure nowadays that would be extremely controversial. It probably was back then, but now it would be like he probably never would have gotten the part to begin with.
Yeah.
But you're like, it's kind of, there's some bit of me that's happy that this film was made in the time period it was, because we get the gift of the fact that Al Pacino was in this movie. So maybe that's selfish of me.
No.
But
to be honest, I don't think there's much wrong with it.
No.
That's my personal view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he played it well. I know it's probably not gonna be the way that people do things nowadays.
Listen,
that's fine.
I guarantee you, for most people listening to this, I know Cubans more than they do, because I've been to Cuba, and most Cubans would not care.
No, they probably love Scarface.
Well, I don't know if they love Scarface.
You're right,
but
because okay.
I don't know.
Maybe it's going a little bit too far.
Maybe.
Because you could see how people could complain about how it portrays Cubans, because it like they are showing the political struggle, and they're like, yeah, and 25% of the people who came over were violent criminals or something like that. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe like from a portrayal of an issue that was going on somewhat in current time period to when this movie was happening, like the Cubans who are living in the area could probably be like, this maybe won't do us favorably in terms of how we are represented. But it's also, Castro also just sent the criminals over. Right.
So that's not supposed to be representative of Cubans.
You're right. Castro on purpose did that. I forgot about that.
So another thing that we kind of brushed past first was, you said once the ball is rolling, can you even stop it? And that's regarding, the growth of his business.
It's sort of like the pride thing. Like once you make a decision to pursue something at all costs, like especially like in the drug industry. So you brought up Breaking Bad. It's a good example because it's the only example I can think of someone like dipping their toes in the water. I'm going to like kind of do making meth. Like normally you would think that's like a 0 to 100 type of decision. Like, but there's like a transitionary period, I guess, in some situations. But for him, it's like this was just another way of his goal of making money. And he does go on some rants where he's like trying to paint himself as the good guy, but like I feel like he knows kind of what he's doing. Yeah,
I mean, he eventually kind of says he's the bad guy, but he's really just using that as a sarcastic way to say like, hey, somebody's got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, and he's also, his pride blinds him to the fact that what he's like it just like like you just get numb to it, or you just don't care, right? That's kind of the vibe I get from him.
Yeah.
This is such a Gen Z podcast.
What? Because you said the word vibe.
Yeah, and every time we bring it up.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
Sometimes you have to, because he doesn't want to spend a lot of time justifying what he's doing. It's just like, I came to America to work hard and make money, and this is the opportunity that I have.
Yeah.
Because no other job, he coming off that boat, he's not getting offered, oh, come work for us at the bank. Like he ends up working with the bankers later when they want his money.
Yeah.
But they're not going to hire him early on.
Exactly. Yeah. No, for sure. I think it's one of those things that there's no way to keep it stable without expanding, I think.
Well, because somebody else is going to jump into your
market. So I think you can't be stable in...
That's when you say like, oh, if you just stop scaling it up. But I think in this profession, you can't stop.
It's like game...
That's why they use the song Push It to the Limit. Because it's like, that's what you have to do.
You're really stuck on the song.
Yeah.
You know the game Slitherio?
No.
Slither.io?
Oh, yeah, I do.
It's like that. Like, you have to grow your snake or whatever
Or the other
circles.
snake will eat you.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a terrible reference, but not terrible in
Go
that it's
play
bad.
it. It's a fun game.
It's just not necessarily widely known. But yeah, it's like a dog-eat-dog world out there. You either have to kill or be killed. And that's kind of where the world he finds himself in. And coming from Cuba where, the revolution took place in 1959 or whenever, and Castro takes over, he changes the whole country and doesn't give people what they wanted. Gives this socialist regime and communist regime, I should say, and it makes people not. It makes someone like Al Pacino's character. I keep messing up his name. Tony Montana, not trust anybody. And so the fact that he is even having his brother do the security, and then he doesn't trust his brother to do any deals. He doesn't trust even the closest people around him to carry out his plans, to do anything for him. It shows that mistrust that might have started from Fidel Castro, which is interesting that they tied this movie so heavily into history. And history that was only, that's less than 100 years ago. I mean, that's recent history. That's in the lifetime of our grandparents.
Even less so from the time the movie was made. What is Castro's
This was less than
Revolution?
30 years off. It was
Like
59.
59,
Yeah, and then a year later or so, when everything came out, that things weren't going to be as good as they thought, and so I mean, this was 83.
So I'm not as familiar with the history. The U.S. was not supportive of Castro's takeover, correct?
I don't want to say for sure. I don't.
Because he was
I haven't
communist,
heard
right?
any. Yeah. Well, no, he was. They were overthrowing another government,
Right.
and Fidel kind of pretended that he would be a certain way and make it a certain way. And then
Right.
Obviously,
It's
not that everybody believed
the
him.
situation that happens in a lot of unstable
Yeah.
countries.
Again, these are just loose terms I'm using. I don't know the specifics.
Wait, who is the guy?
Chavez.
Yes.
Yeah.
People are wearing his shirts now.
Which is crazy, man. Someone from Cuba comes here, they would be so offended by that, man.
I know.
So, yeah.
I know.
That's all I'll say.
This is something that I saw recently, and it was like crazy to me. And I saw a video of somebody defending it. I was like, okay, this is too much.
Yep. So, yeah. I mean, we can leave that as it is. It's just kind of like, yeah, there are different views on what Cuba looks like. I know a guy who said, Cuba, the way that they do things over there is so great. Then I went to Cuba, and it's like, man, they are struggling to get food. They have to go on the black market to get food because it's just like the power's out every other week. Like, it's very bad. It's very bad for the common people there. Even the people who live in the nicer areas, it's just very bad. They don't even let people eat beef over there. They save that for the tourists. So it's like, it's bad.
You're saying if you go to an all-inclusive resort in Cuba, you're getting
by the way, even if you're a tourist there, you don't want the beef. The cows look disgusting.
Right.
But I'm just saying, to people who think that Cuba is such a great land because of the way that the structure is, just go visit and kind of see. I'm not saying visit Havana. That is a tourist bubble. That place is nice. But visit anywhere else, and you'll see just how terrible things are. Doesn't mean the people aren't happy. It just means that the government does not treat them well at all. And the government's always looking. So people are very paranoid. So I understand why someone like Tony Montana
is very paranoid
all the time.
He says this, I am paranoid.
Yeah.
His associate Manny is like, we're spending all this money on surveillance equipment. Once he makes it to the top, once he kills the mob boss and gets the mob boss's wife, who, anyway, we can get into that relationship. But he's like, yeah, I need to know at all times what's going on. This it helps me sleep at night. That's I can sleep at night if I have cameras everywhere, and now everyone can have that.
He just need a Ring doorbell.
You just need a Ring doorbell.
Yeah.
That's literally all.
Movie Vault's brought to you by no.
Yeah. But that probably cost like several hundreds of thousands of dollars back then.
Yeah.
And now it's just like a little $50 thing that you can buy on Amazon.
So wait, what year did this movie take place? I know it's in 83 when it came out.
So that is a great question, because I was like, the technology is such that you're like, it looks like the 1980s and the cocaine time period. But then the part where like he's coming off the boat, you're like, was that right after the Castro Revolution? So that would have been the early 60s. So I'm like,
Castro's in power, so maybe early 60s, yeah.
So it's kind of like bizarre. Maybe they did like a jump forward in time type thing where it's like, or
It
'Cause he
takes
wasn't-
place during the 1980s.
Yeah, because he wasn't there for 20 years. So
No, it says it takes place in the 1980s.
maybe, I don't know, the boat part, maybe it was Castro still sending people over, refugees over?
I guess so.
At that point?
I guess so.
Was that what we're supposed to
I mean, yeah,
believe?
technically, like, there hasn't been a huge regime change since then.
So this is supposed to be also based on Al Capone, but with the Cuban take on... Because was Al Capone Cuban? Or am I missing something?
I don't know. This is stuff that I should have known.
No, I don't know.
No, he wasn't. I don't think he was
So
Cuban.
and the original Scarface was somewhat based on Al Capone, but it's not like a direct. It's more of like it's more of a link or an
He
homage.
smuggled liquor through Cuba, it says,
Oh, okay.
during the Prohibition era.
Okay, so he had ties to Cuba.
Yeah, and obviously Capone was...
And then they used cocaine instead of liquor.
Yeah. Capone was obviously 50 years before when this movie takes place.
Right.
So it really isn't based on Capone because the time period is 50 years.
By a movie that was based on...
Inspired by a book that was... Inspired by a movie that was based on a book.
That was about...
Based. So it's like there's the person, real person, book written about him. Well, book written about Tony, which is kind of loosely based off Al Capone. Then the movie based off of Tony, and Al Pacino says, "Hey, let's make a movie on that." And
So
then
it's
now
like
we have
so many loose...
Well, now we have different movies that say hello to my little friend, like in VeggieTales or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, isn't that
Yeah,
in VeggieTales?
I think you're right. I think it is. VeggieTales was notorious for using like pop culture reference that
Yeah.
like the kids would have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so funny. So yeah, because it is like a cult classic. It was notoriously referenced a lot in hip hop culture as well. And it's
Scarface
referenced
is?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I can think of a Pusha T song that's like, I'm like Scarface. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because, he raps about pushing cocaine, so
Okay.
it works pretty well. It's a pretty direct tie.
All right. Well, I just lose respect for different people every day.
What you don't like Pusha T?
I don't know much about Pusha T.
Daytona, 2018 album produced by the man. We won't name who it was produced by.
Did it start with a K?
Yeah. His last name started with a W.
Okay.
The last great stretch for that guy. Yeah. He had a good album. He produced a good album, and he produced and like co-starred with Kid Cudi in a good album. And then after that, it was
Day and Night. That's all I know about Kid Cudi.
Day and Night.
Because it was in the Moon Knight trailer. That's how nerdy I am. Is the Moon Knight trailer is what I know about Kid Cudi.
Kid Cudi is he's pretty good. He's from Cleveland, so we have to represent. But yeah, critically, this movie it's interesting that this movie was so like controversial and people didn't like it. Because maybe it's because like now we have like Wolf of Wall Street that has like 300 F words, but I guess that was an issue that people had. He does, even in the movie there, it's like kind of self-aware. Michelle Pfeiffer's like, or Elvira's character says like, "Why do you say the F word so much?"
Yeah.
And he's like, doesn't really answer.
Yeah.
And the violence was a big deal. The chainsaw scene got people.
Oh, that was a scary scene.
That one, I was like, oh wow, this movie.
By the way,
that happens within like the first 30 minutes.
I was laying in bed with my wife, and I was watching that as I was falling asleep, which is not a great movie to fall asleep to.
No.
And that scene came on. She's like, "Can you turn that off?"
Just if you're not expecting it, it is pretty gruesome.
I probably gave her nightmares.
Yeah. So people have gotten over that now, generally speaking. Now, what did you think of Elvira's character?
I thought she was kind of a good way to, like I said earlier, like this movie is really just about the character of Tony.
Right.
And she's kind of just like a foil to him in some way.
Yeah, she's a foil to him and Frank, because it's like this is their prized possession. Like first Frank's, then Tony's, and he looks at her. He's like, "This is like," and she is so indifferent.
Yes.
To everything that they're doing. I don't know that I know I was stepped out of the room for a second during the montage scene, but I don't know that there's a single line that would give you the idea that Elvira cares for Tony one bit. Like maybe she at some point thinks she kind of likes how assertive and like charismatic he is when he puts the hat on. He's like a little goofy.
Speaking of KW,
like,
she's a gold digger. That's kind of what it is.
It's like the very, very minimal level of of human attraction.
Yes.
To know that I can be with this person because they're going to provide me with lots of stuff and lots of cocaine.
Yes.
And as soon as the one guy dies, I just move on to the next one because he can still give me all that stuff.
Well, that you're right. I mean, she really is. She's a gold digger, as Mr. West would say, and it's kind of like. I guess I didn't notice it until now that she didn't really say any one endearing word to Tony.
No, it was all like fighting, and like even with Frank, it was all like like sarcastic remarks and like not. And I'm not sure if they like in a weird way wanted that, like they like that because like everyone else around them is kind of a yes man, and so their woman's kind of like a loose cannon type thing. I don't know.
Well, I think she is used because it's all about Tony. She is used as a foil to him in a way that shows something very specific about Tony Montana, which is what he has lost in this process. He sold his soul to this organization over the course of this film. And piece by piece by piece, not all at once. At the beginning of the film, when he's under Frank, he talks to Michelle Pfeiffer. I keep forgetting. Elvira, is that it?
Elvira.
Elvira.
You ever heard the Oak Ridge Boy song?
No.
Giddy up, boom, bop, boom.
You've had a lot of music references this episode.
Elvira. Yeah, it's good.
What does Tim Dillon say to Ben Avery? You have reached your limit of words for this episode. You are not to speak anymore. I'm just joking.
I think the music was inspired by the Tim song that we listened to.
Oh yes, right before.
And I want to like be that. I want to turn on a song randomly and just start making a parody. But
yeah,
we're
not that good.
We're not that good.
She shows something very specific in Tony Montana, which is what he's lost, which is his soul. And at the beginning of the film, when he's under Frank, he says, "Like I want you, baby. I want if I can have you, then I can go straight to the top." And that was where he went wrong, because he was always only using her, and she knew that. She knew she could, skimp off the spoils that he gets. She could glean from his fields. But he always had the intention of having someone by his side, yes, to maybe show her love, but to just get to the top. And then to compare that scene where they're by the pool talking, he's saying he loves her. He wants her to bear his children, right? Mm-hmm. All the way to the point where they're fighting at dinner. And he's like, I can't even have a baby with her because her stomach's so toxic. Because she's, ingesting all these toxins. And then to go from that scene to the scene where he's in the jacuzzi and he's just arguing with her the entire time. All
awesome
the way
jacuzzi, though.
To a further scene where she's like, I'm leaving you, right? I'm leaving you. I guess that was in the restaurant. But it just shows, like, little by little he's selling his soul. Because the whole point, like you said, it's all or nothing thinking. He's putting everything, all of his chips on the table, all of his cards on the line. I don't know the phrases for this business, to sacrifice even his wife, his best friend, and to the point where he even sacrifices his sister for it. He doesn't do it intentionally.
And his best friend.
That's what
his
I said.
Brother.
No, I said that. But he doesn't know he's doing it directly, but thinking back, it's obvious,
Right. And he's already sacrificed his mom because his mom hates him.
Yeah. He doesn't seem to care about his mom at all.
It's more for show. Like he comes to his family. He's like, oh, I finally have made money. He didn't go see his family before he had something to give them. His mom sees right through it. His sister is a little bit more enamored with it. And then their relationship is not healthy. No. To say the least.
Yeah, and you can sense that throughout the film. Like, hey, they're a little too touchy there.
And Manny describes it as being like a protective relationship, but it's very clear that it's a fatherly relationship, but it's like it's a bad fatherly relationship if that's what it is. Yeah. And at the end of the movie, it's very uncomfortable because she confronts him about it, and is shooting him, and it's just it's a mess. It shows how your own sin and what you get involved in brings down everyone else around you.
Definitely. And everyone around him dies, either by his hands or his enemy's hands, which indirectly is his hands. So, it seems like he had a way out of it at all times, right? His sister says, not that this is right, but she says, like, basically, stop having your hand over me. Let me kind of do what I want in life. And he doesn't. He wants control. Manny says, hey, go let me do this deal. He's like, no, I want control. His wife
Because he says it at one point. He's like, the only person I trust is me.
Exactly.
But when you only trust yourself, eventually you're going to let yourself down.
Yeah. Oh, put that on a T-shirt.
Boom.
Yeah, and you're definitely right. And it was that scene in the jacuzzi really stuck out to me where he's like, who built this business? Me. I did it. Me alone. And it's just like, okay, yeah, you picked a good movie for Pride.
Like, yeah, that's why it stands out, because you're like, you could throw it in with, I don't know if you could throw it with the Wrath, but like Gluttony, you could use it for maybe with the drug consumption.
Yeah.
I don't know if it fits into any of the other ones, but yeah, Pride is his key issue from the get-go. It doesn't have anything
and
to do with
carelessness. I think carelessness is a part of that.
Which is funny because of how paranoid he is, but he
exactly.
is careless.
But he's careless in a lot of areas. He was careless for his own safety, even though he was paranoid about his safety. He really wasn't that safe. Like, he would just walk into places and not care. Like, he could have a gun pointed to his head, and then he was paranoid about safety, but really he was paranoid about control. Because he wasn't keeping himself safe. He wasn't keeping any of his people safe because he was still getting further and further into this world. So, like, there's kind of like this cognitive dissonance to where, like, he doesn't realize that he's just seeking control of his life more and more and more to the detriment of the people around him and himself, to the point where he's going against the number one rule that you do as a mob boss, which is don't try the product, right? Yeah. And he's obviously, at the end of the film, in front of a mountain of baking soda, a.k.a. cocaine.
Cocaine.
Yeah, and just, he doesn't even put line. I remember it was like he had these thin lines at the beginning. Then he had this fat, thick line that he was just snorting. And then at the end, he's just snorting straight from the pile. And it's just like, he's not even trying anymore.
There's like a little white patch on his nose.
And Ernie, bless his heart, the guy who used to work for Frank, is like looking at him so concerned. Like, it looks like Ernie actually cares about him.
We kept joking they could have taken it a different way, like staged an intervention for him, which would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
But they did not do that. And so Scarface is what happened instead.
Why is this movie so good? I mean, that kind of is a question for me. Like, I gave this a 5 stars. Your original 2023 review was 4 stars.
I think I would still give it somewhere between 4 and 4.5.
Yeah.
I do think, like, I've listened to enough reviews and people talk about this. Some people think it's kind of like hasn't aged the best, but I think just like looking at it, it's just like the structure is great. It's very influential. The acting is really good.
No loose ends. It's very tight.
Loose ends.
Script is very tight.
And then the soundtrack, which is Giorgio Moroder, who you may know from the Daft Punk song about him, but he was a sort of a pioneer of the synthwave movement. He was a German guy. So there's a lot of synths, and the soundtrack makes it sound very fresh and different compared to, the very soundtrack from The Godfather. A lot more somber and slow.
Yeah, you got it. You took me back.
Like, in your face, fit the Miami atmosphere.
Yeah.
Really, really well. And then, like I said, push it to the limit. Good.
Pusha T.
You always gotta have a good montage. You know what we say? You gotta have a good montage in the middle of every movie. We don't say that. Actually,
although the best montage is The Godfather's.
Yeah,
it was way better than this one.
Yes.
The first and second Godfather.
The Godfather montage is like not a montage in the way that this is a montage. It was like so symbolic.
Yeah.
And like, I learned that in a music class, actually, of all things. It was like, oh yeah, the end of The Godfather is like such a symbolic montage. I was like, I wouldn't have initially thought of it as like a montage, but when you watch the like flipping back and forth, and you're like, oh wow, there's like so much symbolism here. Most people, they just do what they did in this movie, which is like, okay, we need to speed through time a little bit. Let's throw on some music. Let's throw a few clips of things happening so you can tell what's going on.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine in this, but I mean, maybe if you were going to cut out anything, you'd somehow make it a little bit quicker. I don't know. It's fine. 2 hours and 50 minutes is kind of a long runtime.
Yeah.
For this movie, but I feel like it, even though it is long, it's not like a boring long. It's like,
no, I was about to say there were maybe 1 or 2 scenes that were a little slow, but most of the time I was on the edge of my seat, mainly because the acting.
Yeah, it's pretty snappy.
Yeah.
So I don't really have too many complaints from that standpoint.
Yeah, I still think it's a 5-star film. I think I was so pleased, not only with the performance, but just the story in general. Like, it's not Godfather, it's not Whiplash, it's not someone so obsessed with the concept that they destroy their whole life because of it. This is more than that. It's like this is greed and family and I don't know, getting involved in a business that you can't get out of. But also it's like it's really a character study on someone who is slightly a psychopath. I mean, this guy's kind of a psychopath. He has the ability to just turn off this element of his brain that would be scared of these things that people would normally find scary. Even the other mob bosses are scared and freaking out. Then it gets to a point where he is on top, and so he allows himself to get angry. He allows he allows himself to kind of show more emotion later on, like to freak out and blame others, and but it's a character study on these tendencies that he has, and I think it's just a much deeper performance than what most people give it credit for, based on the reviews that I read before watching it. So, yeah, I still stand by it being a 5-star film, to be quite honest, and
I respect that.
Yeah, I love his relationship with Manny. I think it's great. When he shot Manny, I had a audible reaction, like, oh no, like I literally said that.
Yeah,
it just guts you. And then when his sister dies, it's expected. Also, when his sister dies, you're still getting over the fact that she walked in and said some incestuous things.
You're like, oh, I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was like, oh, this is the direction this is going.
Yeah, this is not what I expected. So I still wonder why it's called Scarface. I get it, he has a scar on his face, but
I think that's pretty much it, and that's to tie it to the 1932 movie. I don't think they made a big. Nobody was ever like, "Oh my goodness, it's Scarface!"
Yeah,
you know, it was kind of a. Which I guess I can appreciate that a little bit.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of very interesting people cast in this movie as the side cast. So Stephen Bauer was the only Cuban American in the cast, and you might know him also from playing Don Eladio in Breaking Bad.
Yep.
Which I was like, wait, he does have that face.
Yep.
Like he's older, but you can see it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's awesome. And he's in Better Call Saul too.
Yep.
And then F. Murray Abraham plays Omar Suarez. You may recognize his face from some Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah.
Especially Grand Budapest Hotel. Robert Loggia, who played Frank, definitely somebody I'm like, oh, he's in Lost Highway. We just talked about him.
Wait, who's he play?
He's the producer, the porn producer.
No
Lost
way.
Highway. Yeah. So
that's crazy.
So I was just looking at the cast and being like, wow, this is these are like a lot of like, oh, we've seen this person in this or that, you know. So that's always kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And then, of course, Oliver Stone, who was overcoming a cocaine addiction himself.
Really?
While writing the script for this movie, yeah.
Interesting. That's how it always goes. He knows.
Does.
And obviously, Oliver Stone, we know him from, I mean, he was, I want to say Platoon.
Yeah, Platoon.
Platoon?
Yeah. That's maybe the only one we've reviewed, but he's a very prominent filmmaker in the sense that in the mid to late 80s through the 90s, he made like quite a few movies that were well known.
Yeah.
Especially about political topics. And then Michelle Pfeiffer, this was her breakout role. She was completely unknown before this movie. Had been in Grease 2 before this.
Interesting.
So this was how she came.
This was very early in Stone's career. It was only his 5th film that he wrote. That's very, very early in his career. And the Platoon was obviously 3 years after this. So he had a good few years. Then you went to JFK, Natural Born Killers. I mean,
Wall Street.
Yeah.
I mean, he made tons of movies. De Palma continued to make movies that people know. Like, I know he made some like noir movies, and then he made The Untouchables. He did the first Mission Impossible, actually.
No way.
So
I don't know how I didn't know that.
He's done. I mean, the first Mission Impossible, I don't think is one that people go back and are like, you definitely need to watch this. But
we haven't done any of his other films.
Still got nominated for Worst Director at the fourth Golden Raspberry Award,
Oh,
showing
man.
that you can't please everyone.
Oh man, that sucks. At first, I was like, "Is this who they named the Palme d'Or after?" But no,
And,
the Palme d'Or is not named after anyone.
De Palma is somebody who is super influential on like David Fincher. Like I don't mean to like I feel like we haven't since this was a lot about Pacino, which I think is deserved. But he did Blowout with John Travolta, which I watched recently. It was a pretty good movie. But yeah, he was known for this sort of like he would cover these like dark kind of shadier underside of humanity type movies. Although his 1998 to present is a career slump, so maybe we haven't seen his height was in the 80s to 90s. But he's still somebody that people will talk about, and Tarantino said has also been influenced by De Palma, so I don't think he's somebody who should be discounted in the grand scheme of cinema. He's definitely an important figure.
Interesting.
Also, probably this movie helped popularize the term yayo for cocaine. So,
like after
I
snorting
think cocaine has a lot of nicknames.
Have a good day, Emma. You're good. Sorry. I had to say bye to your wife. Is that weird to do
No.
on the podcast?
No.
That's good. Yeah, it seems like he hasn't done anything in at least 6 years, and before that, it's been 7 years. So, I was about to say Palme d'Or. De Palma.
They actually named the Palme d'Or after. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I looked that up. It's just not true. I was hoping.
I think the Palme d'Or came.
It's just a palm tree. Yeah, it's just a palm tree. There's nothing about Palme d'Or. So, yeah, I think there's so much. Al Pacino, like for him to have this vision is pretty impressive. I'm still gonna be on the Al Pacino train for him doing this movie, because he's had the more impressive career, and I trust his name a little bit more than De Palma's. So yeah, I give him the most credit for this. The unknowing viewer. So it could have been some random guy we don't know about. That's the thing about the behind the scenes people, is like you don't know. Someone else could have really like been the orchestrator.
And the fact that him wanting to do this movie is what made it happen ultimately.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that's pretty cool when an actor's like has a vision, and sure they need a lot of help for it to actually happen, but they push for it.
Yeah.
Get to live out their dream role.
Yeah. Now he's no David Lynch.
No. But very few people are. Imagine Al Pacino in a David Lynch movie.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
What Lynch movie would he be in?
I could see him in Lost Highway with Robert Loggia.
I could see him playing the Nicolas Cage character in Wild at Heart.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah. But
I
it
could
would
see
be a very
Travolta
different
in that
twist.
role
Yes.
as well.
I agree.
What about Kyle MacLachlan in Wild at Heart?
No.
Too happy.
Yeah. He's too soft.
Yeah.
Too.
I started watching this Scorsese movie with Nick Cage in it called, and I don't know why I never picked it back up. I watched like the first 10 minutes, so I basically haven't started it yet even. But it's called Bringing Out the Dead. And it's about it's like a Scorsese movie that you hardly ever hear anyone talk about. And it's about this is basically my movie.
Is it
highlights.
The Irishman?
It's basically my movie highlights because I haven't really watched any other movies. And it's about an EMT.
Oh.
So that was interesting. But then I was like, maybe it hit a little bit too close to home. Like I was at work, so.
Yeah, you're like, I can't.
So I was like, I don't know that I want to watch this.
I can't be watching like people
I'm like
code.
trying to rest from being at work, and then it's like, okay, it's people who are sick, and we need to do stuff.
Yeah. No, you're good. Maybe I can lead into my movie highlights.
Yeah, go for it.
Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. So I'm continuing.
So I think I've only watched the one Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So is it worth continuing on?
Second one's great. It's great. I gave it 3.5 stars, and then How to Train Your Dragon 2. So I was doing sequels. So I watched obviously the live action How to Train Your Dragon. I before that I watched the original, and I love that series. So I'm in the middle of the third one. It's just like a fun series, so I'm gonna finish that, and then I have plans to watch the third Pirates of the Caribbean. We'll see if I watch the fourth and fifth or not, because I hear the original trilogy rounds it out well, and then they just continued on. So I do want to watch Picnic with you.
Picnic. Yeah, we need to watch that.
Yes.
I'm still watching The Sopranos from picking up season 3. Things are starting to move a little bit in the arc of this season.
You're just in a mob boss mood, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Emma and I are watching Love Island right now.
Oh my gosh.
This season's insane.
Really?
If you want to analyze people, it's a great show.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because
it's like The Bachelor or Bachelorette.
They're all kind of like, no, but it's worse.
Really?
It's far worse than those shows. Because there's no real like point to Love Island. It's like, we're going to get you on this island and you're like generally supposed to like kind of find love and like couple up, but like people interpret that different ways. Some people are like, it feels like they're always going to play the field. And other people are like, they try to lock it in from the first time they meet someone, and usually it goes poorly when you do it that way.
And it's usually some desperate guy, right?
No, in this season it was more of there's one girl who sticks out who's very desperate, and it's gone badly, and somehow she's still on the show, and it's really messy right now.
Well, that's why.
Because like
she's on the show.
Within like 2 or 3 days, she was like acting like they had been like dating for like 7 years. And
yeah, I watched the first season of Love Is Blind, and oh my gosh, there was this one girl on there who was just like so in love with this guy, and then it's like the immediate chance that she got to be with another guy, she moved and went to the other guy, and it's just like, what is this? What am I watching? And it's just like, are these people just acting for the show? Did the show say, hey, we'll give you more money if you are dumb on the show? Like, I'm like really questioning reality.
Well, yeah, people have a lot of other motivations for going on these shows other than finding love. Which
I think 90 Day Fiancé Big Ed,
yeah,
he became an internet sensation. He's famous now.
Exactly.
He's on Cameo.
You can get, on Cameo, you can get social media presence. Even if you're like the bad guy of the season, or you're like the person who
doesn't matter.
Good publicity for you.
Yeah, no,
it might be a little embarrassing, but like there always will be a group of people who will be like, oh, I feel so bad.
The hard part is like the Menendez brothers had a whole documentary, a bunch of them come out about how they killed their parents and whether or not they did it. And it's like they like Joe Exotic, all the horrible things he did. He became so popular, people wanted him free just because he's popular. You know what I mean?
They don't really care. I mean, at that point, it's not about justice. It's just about like
getting justice for Carol Baskin, maybe. But it's like, it's really just about like, this guy's popular, let him out of jail. Ted Bundy, maybe same thing. I'm just saying.
To be honest, I don't even know why Joe Exotic's in jail. Like, I forgot. I just remember him.
I'm pretty sure he did so many illegal things.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. And then he like sent I think there were hitmen involved. I don't think he sent them. I think they were towards him. All I know is I am pretty certain Carol Baskin killed her husband, and I'm saying that on the air right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a high. It seemed very certain.
She definitely fed him to the tigers.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, I think this arc's going to be a lot of fun, so I'm excited. So
we showed you all the movies in the arc introduction for the 7 Deadly Sins arc. We'll figure out what order we do them in. But
yep. We have at least one guest lined up, so that could affect the order.
That's why I'm saying that, yep.
But that one will probably be towards the end of the arc.
We also had our last episode we recorded last week. It just didn't come through. Technology failed, so...
Yeah, our producer failed us.
No, it was the technology. It was okay.
And the technology.
It was the technology.
So it's the audio quality is like hearable, but it's probably not like good enough to release. But maybe at some point we'll release it with
AI can fix it, maybe.
Just like, if you're curious, as a bonus episode type thing.
Yeah.
Because it was high fidelity and it was fun, and I read the whole book before it. So
yeah, it was a lot of work going into it.
It was a lot of work. Yep. So bit of a letdown.
And we had a guest on it.
We keep it moving here at the Movie Vault.
Yep.
So.
We do. Yep.
Make sure to contact Hedman Anglin Agency with all your insurance needs. Lots of big things coming up with them, so we'll keep you in the loop. 614-486-7300.
614-486-7300. Still tell them Ben and Zach sent you.
Yeah. And even if you have a current policy, the good thing about going into an independent agency is that they can reassess, especially with auto insurance that renews every 6 months or so, to see whether you're actually getting the best rate or not. So they care about you. They want the best for you. They're looking out for you. So just remember that.
Yep. And be sure to subscribe to the Last Resort Network on YouTube. That's hopefully our flagship station.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more content out there soon.
Still working on some videos.
Slowed up a little bit, but I'm paying $20 a month for CapCut, so I gotta get back on the train.
Hey, that's what it is. I have a video hopefully coming out soon.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
All right. With that, we will close the vault. Oh, Zach, why is all this cocaine in the vault?
Oh,
What are you
sorry.
doing?
I'm so sorry. Well, actually, you want to play?
No, let's dive in.
You want to play?
It's a big mountain of
Say hello
cooking.
to my little friend.